Hello and welcome to KCIW's Curry Café. I'm Rick McNamer, producer and volunteer. Every Sunday, host Ray Gary puts together a program of guests who discuss various topics of interest to our community. As listeners, you can text in questions or comments about our discussion at 541-661-4098. Again, that's 541-661-4098. Now here's Ray to tell us about today's show.
Yeah, we have a very interesting show for you today. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. Just for some reason or other this morning, I decided to look up dates in history or events that happened on this day in history. And one of them was today is the day that Lincoln arrived in Washington for the first time. He came in by train. And there'd been a lot of talk about him being assassinated. So his security detail dressed him up as a woman and snuck him over to the White House. He was very embarrassed about that for many, many years. He did not want that to be done. Well, I guess not too many years because he only lived a few years after that. But anyway, it's also the day that the Marines raised the flag on Suribachi.
Mount Suribachi.
Yeah.
Yep.
And anyway, okay. So let's move on now to our guest. We'll introduce herself and tell us what she's all about. That's you.
Hello. Nice to be here today. I'm honored to be here and talk with you today. My name is Katrina Thompson Upton, and I'm the founder of Northwest American Indian Coalition, which is headquartered here in Brookings.
And you brought a special guest with you, Drew?
I did. I have Lily with me today, who is a tribal youth of the Talawadaini Nation.
Hi, Lily.
Hi.
Yes.
We have youth and exuberance today on today's show. So.
Okay, so tell us about your organization. I have to start out by saying that I don't think a whole lot of people here in Brookings really know very much about the Indigenous community here. I know very, very little, and I don't know, maybe you could just fill us in on, I don't know, why don't I just say what you were going to say before I interrupted you?
Yeah, Curry County does have a very challenging past as far as Indigenous peoples go in the area. A big part of that happened in the early 1850s during the Rogue River Indian Wars and the subsequent removal of the people from the area. This was originally inhabited by the Tututini and Chetco people, and the survivors of the Rogue Indian Wars were removed to different reservations, mostly the Siletz Coast Reservation, which later became the Siletz Reservation. And some of the survivors scattered and went wherever they could to survive. Some of our ancestors end up enrolled in Grand Ronde. Some of them went south to Talawadaini Nation. We just scattered wherever we could go to survive. Some of our ancestors hid in the mountains, so it left Curry County without a tribe headquartered here, and a very challenging tribal politics that still affect Curry County to this day.
And before we go on, I would like to add and say, I was invited to was it a powwow that we went to?
No, it was not. It was just a gathering.
Was it the spring gathering?
Yes, it was a
spring gathering.
What would a powwow be then?
Much larger and much more protocol.
More people.
More people.
A lot more.
Well, I counted roughly 30, maybe.
Yeah, it was a good turnout for our first annual. And
it was last Monday in Gold Beach, and I took Ray and Mike with us. It was, I'd never been to any kind of festival, if you want to call it that. It was absolutely wonderful, unique, and I came away pretty touched. I thought it was fantastic. And in the future, you're going to have more of these, or is it going to be powwows coming up?
No, we'll probably focus just on the smaller gatherings. And we do hope to do this every year at the fairgrounds. And we've been invited back for the Curry County Fair in July. And we do plan on having smaller events. We do want to do an awareness campaign in May, on May 5th, for the MMIP awareness and other events like that. So we'll be doing lots of awareness campaigns throughout the county.
Before we get too far away from that one, I would like to congratulate or thank or whatever the person who made the potato salad. That was excellent.
It's my grandma.
Oh,
It's
really?
my grandmother.
Great. Well, when you see her, you tell her that the famous radio people and
I will.
I had 2 servings, so what can I? It was great. The whole thing was just fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really was. So we want everybody to remember, we have a text line, 541-661-4098. I want to backtrack a little on the spring gathering. The 2 brothers, okay, first I want to go, how many roughly different tribes were there? It wasn't just one tribe there, was it?
So technically there was not any tribes there. Those were just tribal members, tribal people.
Okay.
So we got to be clear that we're not tribal representing any federally recognized tribes or anything like that. This was a gathering of the people, by the people, for the people.
Okay.
We had tribal members from Coquel Indians. We had tribal members from Siletz and from Klamath tribes over in Chiloquin. We had tribal members from Tolowa. So a lot of diverse representation of the people.
And some of those people came a long way, I think.
Yes.
Frankie Tom?
Yes,
Tom?
Freaky Tom.
He came from Wairika. We were talking to him. What a wonderful gentleman.
yeah, we would really like to have him.
I'd like
on
to
the
have
show.
him on
Yeah.
the show eventually.
Yeah, he did. He kind of mentioned to us though that it would be expensive for him to get here.
Well, we could make arrangements.
Yeah, I'm sure we could.
And the 2 brothers who did the storytelling and the drumming,
Yes, that was David and Earl Hewitt, who
were
are
they from the Modoc area?
they are Modocs, but they're enrolled at Klamath tribes.
Okay. Well, anyway, it was just wonderful stuff.
Where would they typically do that? I don't know if you'd call it a show or whatever, where they it seemed to be well coordinated and rehearsed and everything.
Yeah.
Did they do that at Indigenous gatherings mostly, or
Yes.
yeah?
And then Jack Falls Rock came up from Bernie Falls to be with us through the snow.
Now, and who was that?
Jack Falls Rock.
Was he the dancer?
Yes.
Oh, I had a question about that. He was kind of soft-spoken, I heard at the end, but that's okay. Now I know. He came all the way from Bernie Falls?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a long trek, for sure.
Honored to have them all, and
You bet.
Hope to be even bigger and have more representation at our next one.
Well, that's awesome. And I also noticed I went to the if you call it the website, and I even signed up for the email, but they encompass everybody, not only just anybody that wants to support that type of thing in our community. I think it's great. I could shower more accolades, but I guess I could hold off for a while.
Just wanted to say thank you for attending and helping to spread the word and education about the history of Curry County and what happened here and what we're facing, the challenges that we're facing today.
And let me go to that challenge, and the one that I was ignorant of. We talked about it a little bit. There's a land grab right now going on up in Curry and Coos County of tribal lands right now. Sort of. What was the
No,
deal there?
I think what you might be referring to is Curry County has Board of Commissioners through the county has attempted to pass a couple different emergency resolutions. One of them is in regards to the wildfire risk map, and then another one is in regards to managing federal lands. I can't speak on the nuances on that or whatnot, but I would encourage, if you are interested in learning more about that, to view some of the recordings on, I believe it's Curry Civic TV.
Oh, okay. Writing it down.
They have a YouTube channel. I believe it's Curry Civic. Don't quote me on that though.
Okay,
even though I'm
okay. We'll find it.
even though I'm like
Usually by the time you type out 3 letters.
yeah, and you can watch all the
Read our minds.
watch all of the county commissioner meetings
Okay.
and learn what's going on there. And some of that may affect tribal lands.
Okay, yeah. Gosh, you'd think that would be over by now, huh? Since it started.
How did tribal land and where is at one point in the 1850s, basically the indigenous people were thrown out of here.
Curry.
So how did we now wind up with what you call tribal land?
There's very few acres that are considered tribal lands, which would be trust lands in Curry County. There's not much of that here. So the majority of the lands were originally Aboriginal territory of the indigenous people here. And once they were removed, there was a few allotments scattered here and there, Indian allotments in Curry County. Most of those were lost. And then what came after that was the Homestead Act and the Homestead Patents. They came and were issued over the top of the original people's lands and a lot of Indian allotments. And so that became the new land ownership here in Curry County. And left very little, if any.
Yeah, if any. I mean, let's face it, the whole history of land, I call it just land grabbing, is pretty awful.
So is what's here now, is there actually a reservation here?
No, there's not. There's a few acres in North County that are trust land, I believe. And that's pretty much.
Okay. Like I said, most of us know nothing about that. I'll take that back. I know nothing about, so I'm going to ask silly questions probably.
No problem. There is no silly questions. There's a lot to learn.
I was finding that out. So, Katrina, when did you start the, let me get the NAIC,
Yeah.
if that's correct, the acronym.
Yeah.
Roughly when did you're the founder of that?
Yes.
Okay.
And we launched that right in the middle of the pandemic.
Tough.
I believe we got our determination in March of 21, I believe, 2021. And the reason that we started an intertribal coalition was to bring the people together and to bring the work together and do the work and get the boots on the ground and try to federal recognition is difficult in Curry County. There's several tribes that have historical ancestral ties to the area. There's federal recognition versus not federally recognized. There's California state borders. There's a lot of challenges that make it really difficult to do a lot of the work that needs to be done in Curry County. And so that was one of the reasons we started an intertribal nonprofit coalition, was to bring the people together and do the work that needed to be done without as much, as many challenges.
So, in the federally recognized tribes, I am a descendant, if you will, from a Central California tribe, Miwok, and they are federally recognized, but there's a lot of tribes that aren't.
Correct.
And that's part of your work, is to still try to get them federally recognized?
No, we don't work in that in that field. There's Confederated Tribes of Lower Rogue, which is here and active in Curry County. They do a lot of good work, and they have an annual gathering of the people as well up the Rogue River. Amazing. They've been doing it for over 30 years. A lot of amazing people there. But because they are not federally recognized, they do not have a voice at a lot of the tables when it comes to managing things and development and whatnot. And even the federally recognized tribes in other states, for example, Tallawahdaini Nation, there's some issues with the border there, so they're often left out of the conversations when it comes to Oregon issues. Most recently, we went through the offshore wind, and there were some challenges there with Oregon is only mandated to coordinate with the 9 federally recognized tribes. And so if you're not federally recognized or if you're in another state, you're often not part of.
You have no voice.
Yeah.
You know, that is one thing that interesting. I remember exactly who, one of the Modoc brothers, I believe we're talking, we touched on that wind power. We've done a couple of programs here on wind power, and I was a little taken aback only because it sounded like he and maybe most others, they had a lot of negative thoughts on that wind power. So is that generally, I hate to say tribal wide, but is that the general feeling for most Indigenous people?
I certainly can't speak for the tribes.
Okay.
I'm not able to. I'm not a voice for the federally recognized tribes by any means. Just our concern is for natural resource management, and people are divided. There's some concerns with that. There's some concerns with our power usage and our energy crisis, and so it's a very complex issue that really needs everybody at the table to discuss a way forward.
Okay, agreed. And I know that the brother also talked about how they are so in tune with all the creatures of the world, flora, fauna. And that did touch me. And my big concern, one of my biggest concerns when we were talking about the wind power was whale entanglements. Now, we kind of covered and glossed over that it really wasn't a problem. But in the local paper, not a couple, 3 weeks ago, the whale entanglements from the crab pots this year have been more, which is very hurtful, I believe. And there are ways to get around that. They have from what I understand, pop-up pots without being tied to the ground and the boat. But again, I guess that's a whole other subject. But I was very touched by everybody wanting to live in harmony with flora, fauna, and the world, mountains, trees. That was discussed a lot. Each of the beautiful songs were different. This is about an eagle. This is about a crow. This is about a lizard. It was just a wonderful experience.
Those people better not try to run for Congress, I don't think.
Well, not in this era.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe we would come across some of those animals when we were baby drilling. But,
well, yeah. I had now.
Let me just mention the text line.
Please.
Yeah, if you're out there and you have questions that have been burning questions that have been going on in your brain for years, you can text us right now and ask a question, 541-661-4098. Operators are standing by, I think. Anyway.
Present?
Yeah. Okay, good. We have one. Yeah, so join in the conversation. I know you're sitting there thinking, well, I hope they ask her this, or they ask, so to ensure that actually happens.
I wanted to just, we had another guest planned, but unfortunately with the weather and all the problems.
I'm her filling guest.
And yeah, we do have the filling guest and doing a wonderful job.
Yes.
Tabitha Rude, we met her also.
Yes.
Is she like obviously a member or a part of the, I have to get that, NAIC?
Yeah, NAIC, Northwest American Indian Coalition.
Okay,
She's
thank you.
one of our most valuable team members, yeah.
She was wonderful. But on her card, she gave me her card. It was AZAA, Environmental Compliance Project Management Capacity Building. That's a big mouthful. But so what are her duties there? Or is it really a duty? It's just it's all volunteer, right?
She has a very wide skill set. She does a lot of natural resource planning. She's a former Forest Service NEPA planner. And she does a lot of our project coordination and development. And she's amazing.
Well, we'll have, I'm sure we'll have you back and maybe Tabitha again some other time. But I just wanted to mention her name. And I already talked about the upcoming, we'll find out, festivals and all that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll get the email, I guess, because I'm on the email list.
Happy to reach out to you at our next event.
So this is, I don't know if it's the anniversary, but we were talking about a lot of negative stuff. We got to get through it, though. The Rogue River Wars. Mm-hmm. Pretty devastating, and it encompassed the whole of southwestern Oregon, I think, that I gathered, 4 or 5 counties, and lasted for, well, it was basically what I had a lot of dates here, said 55 through 56, then 151. But 1855 through 1856 was most of the damage done to the people, indigenous people.
Correct.
And pretty ugly stuff.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, on that topic, February 15th, 1854 was the anniversary of the 171 years ago was the Chetco River Massacre, where several village and people were massacred. 26 men, a few women. Most of them were unarmed. Right here at the mouth of the Rogue River, but it's important to be truth tellers and to share this history. But it's also equally important, if not more so, to acknowledge that the living descendants of these massacres and whatnot still carry the blood, still carry the culture, still carry the traditions forward. And so the history is not just in the past. We're still here, and it still affects things.
Yes.
To this day.
What was the reason behind that battle? Was it to move the people off the land, or?
Yeah, essentially, yes. Yeah, many of the Chetco descendants that live here today are enrolled at Tallawahd Nation, Confederated Tribes of Siletz, Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and others, and so.
And that's the Tallawahd Nation encompasses a lot of tribes. Is that right?
No, it's just a single tribe, a fairly recognized tribe that's headquartered in Smith River.
Oh, okay.
Siletz, the Confederated Tribes of Siletz is a confederation, and it has many tribes. And
okay, then I had that wrong in my research. So, but now I know. Okay, yeah, and you're talking about the getting the indigenous people off their lands. That goes back to, well, it goes way back, but the Manifest Destiny junk that started the movement. Of course, it had been going on before, but that was where the white settlers mostly were feeling that it was deemed by their God to come take what they wanted and not care about anybody else.
And that continued for quite a while, as a matter of fact. John Wayne was famous for saying that that the Native people were being very selfish by not just giving up their land to the white people who had use for it.
John Wayne.
He has an airport named after him.
Yeah.
There is a documentary by Steve Newcomb that goes in depth in that issue, and we brought him up for a conference last year, and did a documentary viewing. So it was really great to see the author.
Was it about Manifest Destiny and all things surrounding it?
I would think that the land right here would have been very valuable to both sides. It's there's plenty of wild resources here that the people here could live very well, relatively easily. And of course, we have also other resources here too that the invaders wanted. So,
his documentary, by the way, is Doctrine of Discovery, Unmasking the Domination Culture.
Okay, I will get that from you before we leave. Had no idea. Like I said, there's so much education, and right now, the mood of the country or the leaders is to whitewash a lot of that stuff and not even have it out for education. And, it's not like we have to browbeat everybody, but we need to know where the mistakes were made, and there were a lot of mistakes made.
We don't want to make the white kids feel guilty about things that happened, so we just say it didn't happen.
Yeah. And speaking of the kids, that's part of the whole thing too. The way the children of the indigenous people were treated and told, you can't speak your language, we don't want you to learn any other language, that kind of a thing. That was, cruel.
Were children here brought to BIA schools?
Well, Monday, actually, February 25th, 1880, is the 145th anniversary of the Chamala Indian School being opened. Chamala is a band of the Kalapuya people from the Willamette Valley. And it opened in 1880 as an elementary school. And it is the oldest continuously operated Native American boarding school in the United States. Many of our local kids, local ancestors, the Chetco, Tututini people, were sent to this school. And some of our kids were even sent as far away as Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania. There's a really great quote. I believe it was Abigail Echo Hawk that said that every Indian person that you know has an Indian boarding school story, whether it's a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, a sister. Every single one of us has,
no doubt,
a story.
I lived in Alaska for a long time, and I had a lot of Native friends. And one woman told me about the white teachers coming in, and they wouldn't allow the kids to speak their native language. And this girl was brought up with that language, and she didn't know any other language. And she talks about one time when she leaned over to a classmate sitting next to her and said in her native language, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't understand what she's saying. And she got swatted for that. Kind of reminded me of my 1 year in Catholic school when I got swatted every now and then, but had nothing to do with it. Totally different story. Forget I said that.
Parallels. Hey, we did get a text, and as I try to pull it up again, by the way, our text line, 541-661-4098, is, of course, to you, Katrina. What does she think we can do as a society to return the land back? Pretty general, pretty huge. I don't know. We could certainly support the indigenous people more than we do.
Yeah, definitely consider supporting language departments and culture departments of tribes that are near you, and their revitalization efforts. Any support that you could give there would be greatly appreciated. Land back, if you have property, that's always greatly appreciated as well. And there's a lot of work to be done for sure as far as the management of our natural resources, and so any support there is definitely going to be, for the next 7 generations.
Yeah, and again, I think supporting our land, I'll just say it again, flora and fauna, going to be pretty tough for the next couple, 3-4 years maybe, but I hope it comes back.
So I'm getting the impression there's not a lot of federal lands being held. It's all private lands?
Trust land is held in trust by the BIA. Not all tribally owned lands are trust land. Some. So when we were removed from our land, and then fast forward to 1955, we had the Termination Act, and all the tribes that did exist ceased to exist in 1955, and all their trust land was, it ceased to exist. And so the tribes have had to buy back what land they do have, acre by acre.
Yeah, I think you opened another can of worms here, at least for me. In 55, the tribes considered that they ceased to exist?
Yeah, Western Oregon Termination Act. It terminated over 60 tribes here.
What was the reason for that?
Because.
Because. I did come up with a gentleman I'd never heard of, and this has to go back to the Rogue River Wars. Governor Stevens of the state of Washington Territory wanted to let me see if I can read my own, displace indigenous people and take their land, bottom line. And he was a big part of that to instigate the violence against the indigenous people.
There's probably still plenty of room in the Everglades if you wanted to displace.
A different area, but we can do it. Yeah, that was, again, just doing the research, all this history comes at us. And good heavens, I don't remember this stuff. And I mean, I'm 72, so I was in grade school in the 50s and 60s. I don't remember a lot of this stuff being taught.
So leading into that land acquisition, there's a very special, very sacred place on the mouth of the Rogue River that we have been attempting to purchase for some time now. Acquisition funding for nonprofits is a little bit hard to come by. And so if anybody's interested in supporting that cause, we would love to talk.
Wow. Well, yeah. And back to I'll try it again. On the site that I went to, I'm going to say it this time, for the Northwest American Indian Coalition, there is a place to get on, sign up for the email, and there's a donation.
Yes.
Donate there.
Yeah, nwaic.org.
Okay. I'll get it down eventually.
And if you'd like to know more about the property acquisition that we're trying to preserve, that's nwaic.org/TEER, TEER.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, and these times when we look at the idea of the government just coming in, moving people off and taking their lands, it's pretty outrageous. It's hard to believe that actually occurred.
Well, like we were talking earlier, and it's just unfortunately, on the indigenous history of this country, there's not much positive out there. I did a little bit on the Trail of Tears. Wonderful President Jackson, who turns out to be what I consider a pretty evil guy.
Yeah.
He was the one that started all of that Trail of Tears from what I researched, and it just kept on going.
Yeah, and when they were here, we have the Rogue Trail of Tears, where a lot of the survivors of the Rogue Indian Wars were either shipped on a steamboat up north to be processed, and then there was a foot march, a forced relocation that was on foot that went up to the coast reservation that we consider our Trail of Tears. And the Confederated Tribes of Siletz does an annual memorial walk for that trek, and a lot of people support that and join in on acknowledging that part of history.
Okay. And again, going way, way back, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when all of the I guess you would call it discrimination or beyond that. The Puritans, I was reading in 1630, this goes back to the Manifest Destiny, but believed if they kept coming and taking land and other people's land, that their God, and I say their God, would approve, and that's what their God wanted.
That's what, it was set aside by him to be taken by us.
Right.
Us.
So that's pretty good back in history.
My family was still in Ireland. I had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Like I said earlier, it's very important to be truth tellers in sharing the history, and so we don't forget. But also at the same time, it's equally important, if not more important, to acknowledge the living descendants that are still here. We are still here. We still carry the culture, the language, the blood, the traditions forward. And we're still here doing a lot of the work, creating beautiful art and stories.
I can see the thrill on my mom's face that she's enjoying this and liking to spread this culture throughout the world.
I wanted to touch real quick on
That's sweet.
one of the programs that involves Lily is the Healing of the Trail program that we're developing.
I've never heard of this. What?
The Healing of the Trail program. So we started this last February 2024. This is an adaptation of the Healing of the Canoe program.
Yeah.
They came down and did in-person training with us, and we're wrapping up our adaptation phase of this program. And ours is going to be healing of the trails, and it's a curriculum that emphasizes life skills development, cultural connection, community engagement. There's 13 modules to this curriculum for Native youth that include topics like suicide, drug use, dating violence, and so on and so forth. And we're very excited to launch our very first cohort in the summer, right after school gets out this year in 2025. And we do have open applications for that right now. If you go onto our website and go to nwaic.org/HOTT, HOTT, Healing of the Trails. There's an open application there. We'd love to have youth that are Native youth or Native identifying youth join us for our inaugural launch of that program.
That's awesome. Now, and the brothers were talking about that, I believe, at the spring, what is it called again?
Gathering.
Thank you. I'm losing it here, spring gathering. Anyway, but was that about restoring the trails that have been destroyed with, I don't know, land takeovers or something? That's what I got out of it, that they were trying to restore, like hiking trails.
Eventually,
Okay.
eventually we may bridge that for our first grand opening, if you will, opening our first cohort this summer. We're going to be focusing on the curriculum and getting the youth back out on the land, redeveloping that connection with the land, with the forest and the water, and going through the curriculum, each of the modules, and just strengthening that connection to our land and our heritage. And I'm sure it will only build from there.
Well, it was all wonderful, beautiful messaging. And we did get another text here on our text line, 541-661-4098. Texter says, and thank you for texting, being someone whose family were survivors of the Holocaust, I feel now is the most important time for all of us to fight for what's ours. So thank you for sharing with us, listeners, your time and information about this very important issue.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah. And go ahead, Ray.
In many parts of the world, when the European invaders took over land, they enslaved the people who were living there, South Africa and places like that. Was there ever an attempt to do that here?
There was some mining slaves, yes, and there was some trafficking, if you will, of our women, our Native women. A lot of them were married to miners and homesteaders to survive. That was one of the only ways you could remain on your land, on your homeland, if you were married. So there was a lot of similar things happening.
That would be, I think, the story of the, again, in school in the 50s and 60s, the building of, this is California, but all the missions that are up the coast, up and down the coast. Well, I remember in school, the wonderful fathers, or whatever they want to call them.
Founding fathers?
Well, not the founding father, but the priests, if you will,
Yes.
Catholic priests. They were the ones that set the missions up. There was a lot of enslavement and abuse that went on. It wasn't such a cheery little story. And now, all the missions, it's like a tourist thing. You got to go check all the missions out. And there's bad, ugly stories behind a lot of it.
So slavery and building the mission, you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And was the idea of them to convert the indigenous people?
Well, part, and then also to indentured servitude is what they use a lot of them for. So, surprise, surprise. I guess that's not a new story.
Speaking of slavery, in school I go to the Azalea Middle School. I'm a
Okay.
6th grader there. We're in social studies, we're learning about how the Aztecs used murder and violence for land, to take land from other people.
Yeah. Well, hey, they're teaching it. That's a positive. Maybe not be some pretty history, but you're learning about.
We watched a video on it where these two distant people that live too distant, they got married, and then the Aztec warrior had to use a obsidian blade and cut out her heart.
Oh.
Yeah.
My.
Which was part of the murder of
Yeah.
the Aztecs part for
Brutal history.
culture. It's their culture.
And this is what grade, Lily? What grade you?
Sixth.
Sixth. Okay. Well, not sugarcoating anything.
I think that's also a great example of who writes history.
Yeah. True.
Sorry.
And that, part of our healing is the gatherings and coming together and bringing the people together over food and dance and song and story and drum.
Food is my favorite part.
That's part of our healing, and also building positive programs and doing positive work in the community collaboratively. And I think that's the path forward for healing.
So if my mom, she signs us up for these, classes during, the summertime or, weekly, things during the summer. We go to this one class where we all, learn about our native culture with family and friends that are learning it. You remember that one?
What did you just finish making not too long ago on your own?
We finished making hair ties for a dance that we did, so we had our own regalia. And we also got to make our own paddles in this one class that we made our own paddles. We got to carve it and shave it down to where it's in size.
Well, that's cool. Continuing Indigenous education.
Yeah, that's through her tribe, Tallawahdeeni Nation's Cultural and Language Department, and their education department. They put on a lot of great programs for the Native youth.
Wow, I think that's wonderful.
In Alaska, where I lived, and I guess a lot of the country, the reservations and Native communities were, well, in Alaska, most of them you couldn't get to other than by flying. And so things like unemployment and I don't know what you would call it. There was a lot of times nothing to do. There was no jobs or anything like that, and this caused a lot of problems with alcohol and other drug abuse. But here, at least what I get the understanding of native lands, they're right on the highway. So is there a similar problem there?
We have an epidemic of murdered and missing Indigenous people that is definitely still affecting us today. The Yurok tribe last year, I believe it was, declared an emergency. I have a figure here, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's 10 times the national average that Indigenous people go missing and their cases are not reported, not investigated, not followed through, and it is a national epidemic.
My mom's been telling me stories about that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. My mom's been telling me stories about how the murdered and missing women or people so I can just know what's happened in the past.
Is there a reason why Indigenous women would be involved in this more than other people?
I think they just don't follow up with it, the law enforcement.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess. Because I read the Eureka paper, the Humboldt County has that. Aren't the Yurok from Humboldt County, I believe. So anyway, yeah, they have, it's a big problem. And it's, like you said, Katrina, how much more percentage? My gosh, it was outrageous of the murdered and missing women from Indigenous people.
Years ago, I took part in, I believe it must have been a women's march, and one of our local politicians decided he wanted to walk with me. And as we walked along and he waved to everybody and all of them, they were talking about these unknown people and people that aren't missed. And He had no idea what that was all about. Why would they be unknown?
Yeah. Well, like I said, law enforcement just not taking it as serious.
And evidently he wasn't either. Huh?
Right. On a little bit of a lighter note, it wasn't that much lighter for me, but I have to say, at the event that we were at, the spring gathering, I loved the burning of the sage. I just thought that was a kind of a special thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did I do the next day? I'm a kind of an incense burner in my house, but I thought, hey, man, I'm going to get some sage. I love that smell, and it has healing powers. I bought 2 pieces at one store, and I got home, and I could never get it to light and burn.
Oh.
So I'll have to YouTube that more.
I'm a big
But that
fan.
gentleman who did it with the cowboy hat and the long, he was over there preparing that for quite some time. So there's got to be a little bit of an art to
Oh,
Would like to.
wasn't just a Bic lighter and
No, I'd like to thank Justin Futch from the Coquel for coming down and doing that
it
for
was
us.
very cool. Yeah, very cool. But I'll have to practice my sage burning, I suppose. Didn't go well.
maybe we could talk about that in coming weeks. What you've learned, you could give a little radio dissertation as to how you burn.
How's Rick coming along?
Yes,
Still working on it.
yeah. They could
Yeah,
tell us whether we could use a Bic lighter or wooden matches. Or
that's what I had.
maybe
And
maybe rubbing 2 sticks together, or
Yep. So, like I said, it was just a whole event. Well, when we were there, I think it was about 4.5 hours.
yeah, we were there the whole afternoon. Yeah,
And it was just, some good food, good entertainment, if you want to call it entertainment. It was very, very enlightening. It really was. And if one more time, the next one that's planned, is it set up for a date already?
We plan on doing some outreach and education in May, on May 5th, for which is National MMIP, Murder and Missing Indigenous People Awareness Day. So we're going to do some outreach and show some documentaries in May. And then we were invited to come back at the Curry County Fair in July.
That was May 5th?
May 5th is MMIP Awareness Day.
All right.
And,
Okay. And will that be back at Gold Beach? Same place?
we're still in the planning phase. We may do something in Port Arthur, Gold Beach, and Brookings.
Oh, wow.
Maybe at the libraries. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be good. If I had more.
didn't you have a text?
Yeah.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I was having
Third one.
trouble pulling it up. Maybe I should give Lily the phone.
I could read it probably.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I finally got it. I'm sorry. Sorry, texture, but it took me a little bit. There should be a sponsorship for women and girls to learn self-defense to help stop them from missing. Kind of a tough one to teach, but I guess it wouldn't hurt. I don't know.
I mean, martial arts is a good one.
Right.
My little sister did martial arts, actually.
Well, she's a step ahead of the game.
I taught myself.
Well, good. And how sad that we have to even think that's a need.
Yeah, it's definitely an epidemic that needs to be looked at it from all angles.
Right. Well, now, and again, I wrote that down, so we'll have to do something maybe here when that May 5th, before May 5th arrives.
And we'll be doing focusing on a lot more outreach and community involvement and education. This coming year, I might talk just a minute about one of our newest programs is the Sustainable and Transparent Advocacy Collective, also known as STAC, S-T-A-C. Just bringing a group together to focus on the Southwest Oregon coast natural resources. We want to develop a user-friendly resource hub that has advocacy information, transparency, sustainability information, upcoming bills, upcoming comment periods, all of these different things. There's a lot of moving and changing policies happening right now, and it's really difficult for any one person to try to keep up with everything and all the things as they change on a daily basis. And so this group would be a collective, of everybody in the county that could come together and learn and share and make the, advocacy decisions as a group on things that affect Curry County. And also wanted to mention real quick too, one of our other programs is the Curry County Community Organizations Active in Disaster, which is kind of referred to as a co-ed. Most counties have a co-ed. And so we were in that program as well, trying to bring together community resources to address disaster preparation and organizations, volunteers, community members, how to enhance our disaster preparedness since we are in a fault area. And
and we recently had a little fiasco with the tsunami, and how perfect, what do you call it, a segue? That is our plan for our show next Sunday, if the guests come around, is to talk about emergency preparedness.
Yeah, very important in our community.
Yeah, boy, like you said, we're surrounded by trouble spots, if you will.
Yeah.
Beauty and nature, but...
I remember the one time when we all heard the tsunami sirens. That was my first time ever hearing the tsunami sirens here. And then there was an earthquake warning here at the same time as the tsunami sirens went off. I was in school when it happened. It was kind of scary because I've never heard the tsunami sirens here.
Did you know what it was?
It was a tsunami way farther away from us.
But
and then
did you know what the sirens indicated?
Not really, and then we all got an alert.
Be afraid, be very afraid.
And then on our computers, while we were working on something during our class, before lunch, we all got an alert, a earthquake alert on our computers, which we got an indicate, which meant it wasn't very close to us, but it was over in California, pretty sure. Yeah, California.
Yeah, what I encountered after that, when I went, I was up north, didn't hear anything, but I pulled into Harris Beach, and all I saw were people out there hanging out on the beach with their phones trying to record the tsunami wave.
I got like everybody else, I got the tsunami warning on my phone, and I live about 1,100 feet up, so tsunami is the only thing I don't have to worry about where I live. So I went out on my deck, not unlike the people lining up, I'm sure, the places along that, and I just got my binoculars out and waited for the tsunami to come, and it was kind of disappointing. Did we ever get it all clear on that?
I don't even remember that. I think it finally came out, but and I'm in the same boat, so to speak, on my way up to, and I'm off right on the beach almost, but we live up a hill, and there's, when you come up to my place, it says leaving tsunami zone.
Oh.
So, but as I go down, entering tsunami zone.
Nobody even put one of those. I think my road starts above the.
Yeah.
How high above sea level do you have to be out of this?
That I don't know. And do I even know what we are? No, but I should. By the way, we're kind of winding down here. We've got about, 7 minutes left. We did get another text, and I'm going to guess this is from our friend Troy. It must be. Hi, Troy. Anyway, he says, we at Pride of Crescent City will be there. Now, we'll be there. Maybe he's talking about the next
maybe
gathering.
Future gathering or the MLIP.
And do you don't go down into California then at all?
We're not opposed to that. We are an Oregon-based nonprofit,
Right.
though, so.
Right. And speaking of California, back to that, I know that I'm part of a tribal health, if you will call it, coalition. Because of the federally recognized tribe, we get health care, wonderful health care. Is there a program like this or like that in Oregon for Indigenous people?
Yeah, there is in Oregon, not in Curry County, though.
Okay. So
There's a couple.
in other words, could you use a tribal health care organization, which you'd have to travel out of the county?
Yeah, there's one in Smith River, and there's a couple in Goose Bay, but
Well, that's
there's
the one that I go to.
there's nothing.
Smith River.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right, then.
Can you get some of the care here that so many of us complain about? We have to go to Medford or faraway places to get.
Talk about me personally? Or
No, is
oh,
if we want to get
well,
cataract surgery or things like that.
as far as where I'm at, I can do it, but I have to go to Medford.
Oh, okay.
So
So you do it through them.
Yes, through
Okay.
them. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty wonderful thing, I tell you. So, gosh, I had more. I got to try to dig through my doctor's notes and find the other questions that I had here. But overall, again, I want to thank you for inviting me and Ray, and I took Ray and Mike up there. It was just a fantastic event.
Thank you for joining us. I might just end with a comment about how a lot of our work, the bulk of our work is natural resource type work with the forest and water and so forth. And we believe the key to solving today's environmental challenges lies in honoring the practices and the values that have sustained our Indigenous communities for generations, and introduce the term traditional ecological knowledge, TEK, or Indigenous knowledge, or Indigenous science, as some call it, and embracing that and advocating for that when it comes to stewardship and management planning of our natural resources, cultural burning, things like that, and bringing those ways are really essential to healing our land and our water, and just advocate for that and support those.
And I certainly picked up on that at the spring gathering, that everybody there was very concerned about that, not the slash and burn things that have been going on for quite a long time. And how sad that we have to right now, well, look back to the people that were here originally to get some of that back. We need to be good stewards of the land, and that message I got there in spades when I was there, from the stories, from the dancing, from the drumming. It was just all, yeah. And that's very important it should be important to all of us. But to some people, it seems like the greed and the power take over, and they could care less on what things are destroying rather than.
Yeah, there are many places in this country where we've made an awful mess and continue to make. We can continue to develop the area around Tucson with subdivision when they already don't have enough water. So
Yes.
we're just
Phoenix
houses
too.
anyway. We can make a buck on that land.
Okay, yeah, we are winding down, 2 minutes to go. Well, again, Katrina, I definitely want to thank you for coming here, and your daughter. I already forgot.
Lily.
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 Old people forget a lot. That's just the way it is. Sorry. But no, thank you too for being here.
And young people are allowed to make fun of old people.
Oh,
It's
no.
very
It's
easy
encouraged.
to do.
my mom always says, "Oh, Eva, me," as in me. And then she says, "Oh, Lily, come here." And then she's like, "No, I mean Eva."
You get confused?
True story. True story.
Okay.
I'm still trying to remember why I went in the kitchen this morning. I had something to do in there. I hope it wasn't turning the stove off.
Yeah, we could go tell old people stories, but we'll save that for another show.
But I was at a little meeting yesterday, and somebody wanted to know what today's show would be about. And I thought for a minute, and I thought for another minute, and I said, "I'll get back to you on that." About a half hour into the show, I remembered. So
Well, I'd like to remind people. Did you want to say something, Lily? Oh, okay. I just want to remind folks that, next Sunday, hopefully, we're going to talk about the emergency preparedness, what Katrina was also talking about. And glad everybody listened in and texted. And
Thank you so much for having us today.
all right, and we'll see everybody, well, me and Ray, next week. So you're listening to KCIW LP in beautiful Brookings, Oregon.
Thanks for listening.
Adios.